Should we kick it into gear?
Let's hit it.
Hey, welcome to episode 186 of Front Seat Gamer. I'm here with Blake.
Hello.
And Paul.
Hello.
How's it going, guys?
Good. How you doing, Nick?
I'm all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How you doing, Paul?
I like how the yeah gets like more excited and then just like not excited.
It gets more like you're trying to convince yourself. No, I am.
And then it's not working.
I am.
I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
yeah.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. I should be.
I mean,
I should be good.
up and down. I mean, mostly down, but like, miserable.
But on
Hey,
paper,
you
good.
can't have the ups without the downs, right?
So, video games, right?
Yeah.
Should we just jump into some questions?
Yeah, we
straight
got
off the
some
bat?
comments. We got a real good one.
We got a few by the looks of things.
We got a couple of really good ones.
AidenCichi9327 says, "Oh shoot, we talking about Elden Ring again? Hey Nick, how's the lead up to that cool looping hallway dungeon? It's in a great area, right? Super fun area with giant sewer lobsters, yeah? At least the boss gives you an insanely good bleed talisman. Oh, and how totally cool and fun is it that you can go through the whole of Elden Ring with a bleed build, and then the last boss is totally immune to blood loss. So old school and fun!"
I didn't know that. Because every time I talk about Elden Ring, I'm like, yeah, my bleed build, just like a couple of hits and you just like, hey, thing off. I never got to the final boss.
As we previously covered, you've never beaten the game. You've never you're not even halfway.
I don't think I've beaten a game.
Just
a game.
Souls game?
Or a game
Any
in general.
game ever?
Just in general. Like, I can't really
Yeah, that actually
think
does
of that many games that I've beaten.
I mean, even the games where you could beat it in a session, you often turn off the ending.
Yeah.
You specifically disable the capacity to beat the game.
Yes.
But
yeah, that's super annoying.
Oh, what? Oh, are you saying that Elden Ring isn't the perfect game?
I didn't say that.
Okay. But you just acknowledge that the perfect game has something super annoying in it.
Yeah.
That's
something really super annoying that would just ruin my whole play.
Those lobster
Well,
bosses.
you didn't find out though. You had a great time.
No, I didn't find
and
out.
Then you stopped playing.
Yeah, exactly.
Those-
I finished when I felt like I'd won, so that was enough.
Did you guys get up to Liurna of the Lakes?
Oh wait, to the
It's like the kind of swampy area.
yes.
Yeah.
And there's like these lobsters that leap out of the ground and blast you from a million miles
yeah,
away.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are annoying and stupid, right?
No, they're fun.
Okay.
Just look where you're going.
What if you're in a really tight space?
Well, that might be annoying then, but like at least in that swamp, I'm pretty sure you can see lobsters walking around, right?
Yes, you
or like you learn to
You can see some of them.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah, but it's a swamp, man. You got to expect
Lobsters.
you got to expect giant lobsters. So in this ankle high water, you've got to expect.
So Aiden brings up a point about ailments in that game, like bleed. There's a few others.
Mhm.
I think the ailment system in that game is dumb. It might shock you to learn that I think that there's an issue with this game that I don't love.
That's just news to me. Where's this coming from?
You know how the ailments work in that game?
No, tell me.
Hang on. Let's rewind. Didn't you just say you were playing a bleed
Well,
build?
yes, but like I feel like you're gonna get into some mechanics that I'm not aware of.
Okay, so when you're attacking something, you build up a bar,
Yeah.
and then when the bar hits a threshold,
Yep.
it triggers.
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Why?
Well, it means that okay. For example, you're playing a bleed build, and your bleed doesn't actually proc unless you get a number of hits in.
Yeah.
Some of those enemies might die before you even get that proc off.
That's true. But,
Some of those enemies might be immune.
yeah, that's yeah.
And then when you do trigger it, let's switch it around. Okay, you're the one being attacked. There's a bar building on you. When the bleed goes off, you're just bleeding.
Yeah.
And then like you just die basically.
Well, I mean, in Dark Souls, it's just like a chunk of life gets taken, and then you have to build that meter back up. Isn't it?
That is the case. I think specifically with bleed. Yeah, you do take a significant chunk of damage.
Because that was what I was seeing. It was always like the third hit took a huge chunk of life off, and then so I would just basically always.
But there are
always
some ailments
hit
that
kill
persist.
stuff if not Yeah.
So like there's like a freeze one, like an ice one, frostbite, but I don't know what it's called, but it just increases the damage you take. And then there's one
Okay.
that's like poison.
Yeah.
And then there's one that's like super poison,
Oh.
which doesn't actually look any different to poison, and you have no way of knowing that it's super poison. And then there's like the rot. Do you know about the rot?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know of it.
Yeah, you go to like the I think the area is like Kaled or
Yeah, the
something.
Scarlet Rot.
And,
yeah.
yeah. And then you just start taking damage forever.
Yep. Yeah, it's a real pain.
Okay, cool. So we do understand that these are bad systems. Because
How would you
there's-
improve it?
Well, why not have it be that the bar indicates the severity
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to indicates whether it's on at all? Why is it a binary system?
It's you know what it sounds like to me. It's like an armor bar. You know, like
Yeah, it's like a
it's-
threshold.
it's like it's like it's like a game where it's like you take down someone's armor and then you can do damage to them, kind of thing.
Sure.
You know.
Why is that the case? Though?
I don't know.
Why is how does
I mean,
that,
it works with
them-
armor, but it's just
thematically speaking?
yeah.
How does that work with bleed?
They got thick skin.
Yeah.
You got to keep cutting them in the same spot to get through the skin.
Right,
That's
right,
under
right,
the
right.
skin's where the blood is.
And that's
Yeah.
that is how it works for poison
Yeah,
and cold
Yeah. they've all
yeah.
and
got-
madness.
Well, they also got like warm furry skin.
Warm for okay, right.
So the furry, you got to get
Sure,
through the
sure. Okay, maybe it's
deal cold.
yeah.
Madness. They've just got lots of
They've got
mental
real-
health on
real-
the outside.
mental health. Yeah. Really strong mental fortitude.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if you shave off that outer layer,
A lot of confidence.
You just needle them with comments until they like eventually break down.
Oh dear, guys. It's a bad system. I don't like it.
Well, okay, talking about I mean, I'm not going to say that you're right, but I'm going to say that you are like probably onto something. Because like when I started that bleed build, my expectations were like in other games where you do damage and it's a damage over time.
Yeah.
Is applied.
Yeah.
Not you beat this threshold and then a huge chunk of health disappears. You know,
Sure.
I was expecting damage over time.
Yeah.
Like, and so yeah.
Like
they
every
got
other game.
Like
special
every
blood.
other
It just
game.
falls out
Yeah, that's right.
in chunks.
Yeah, it's a big. You
Yeah.
lose. You just immediately lose a quarter of your blood.
Yep. It's unbelievable. I hate it.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if that last hit was like with a giant axe or just like if you just get gently poked and it
Yeah.
just bumps you over the
Just-
threshold. All of your blood.
You broke the dam.
Now it's on the ground. But no, but you didn't break the dam. It's like a block of blood fell out.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the
But then
dam,
it
the dam
refills.
redams.
Yeah, read that. Like a chunk of coagulated blood.
Yeah.
Fills
It
that hole.
immediately
Yeah,
cauterizes.
yeah.
And
then you got to hack away at it again.
Yes.
I mean, the
Cool
more you
system.
explain it, the more I don't like it.
Okay, good. Finally, getting through to you. Aiden CG also says, all jokes about Elden Ring aside, your point about requiring the community to provide answers to unexplained or complicated in-game elements is interesting. What are your thoughts on the huge efforts of the PoE community to add tools for the game? I can't imagine playing PoE without tools like Path of Building and Awakened PoE Trade, or without the extremely detailed wiki and sites like PoE Ninja. Where do you draw the line on this stuff? Where does it go from being okay to being invisible bridges with no indication that they exist aside from some notes floating in space? And I think the
This
key
is
there.
a really interesting question.
Well, I have lots of thoughts on this.
Yeah.
But the main one is, can you play the game successfully without the tools?
In Path of Exile, yes.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. That's sort of where I draw the line.
The,
Is like,
the,
can-
tool, the
could
tools
you-
in PoE
But
are
what do you consider success, though? Because is it like just
You-
finishing the campaign? Is it like
you
clearing
probably
red
you
maps?
probably
Is
won't
it-
be the best player in the world.
Yeah.
Just as like an Olympian isn't going to be the best athlete in the world without coaches and like gym, like
Without min-
athletic
it's
laboratories
min-maxing.
and
It's straight up min-max.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
you get to a point where, okay, I've done all I can with my own knowledge, and I do this in every game, you know. And then it's like, okay, I want to now, get the best of this or the best of that or whatever, and you start looking up min-max guides.
Yeah.
And that's for every game, like Baldur's Gate as well. Like you could
I-
say, you need a guide to play Baldur's Gate, but you really don't. But if
Yeah.
you wanted to be a min-max,
Also
type thing, then you
intent.
do.
The designer intent, like developer intent here is important. So like Path of Exile, you generally aren't designing something to be misunderstood. right? You are not saying, and here
Yeah,
we're
that's
going to
fair.
put an invisible wall. Here
Mhm.
you won't know that there's a secret room here until
Mm.
someone accidentally stumbles into it. You won't know that this chest is going to teleport you to Act 6.
Yeah, but
Um,
with Dark Souls, like that, then is taken into account that they know players will. Like the only reason they're able
But
to
hang
do
on,
that is
they-
because they know players are going to find these things and put the notes down for it.
but they also have an offline mode.
Yeah, which I think that's crazy.
Right.
I
So
think that's a whole different experience. I had a mate that was
So-
playing offline, and he was like, "It feels really like just empty."
okay,
This is-
interesting.
But that I don't like. Yeah, they have an offline mode, but like I don't think that that's the intended,
But they
the
supported
ideal way to play.
They give
Yeah.
you that is a feature in the game.
Yeah,
So the developer's intent can't be that you don't use the feature.
yeah, yeah.
So I think that that's the difference: is what is the developer's intent, and can you be successful without those tools? Can you successfully play Elden Ring? Can you successfully play Dark Souls without those notes?
Yeah.
I think in some of those areas, no.
If there was really if they were really serious about an offline mode, they could then place developer notes that
Yeah,
would give hints.
That's right.
You know, and then you'd simulate the same thing, or you could simulate blood splats in certain places. You know.
Oh, like sort of environmental storytelling.
Yes, like environmental
right?
storytelling. But they
like you
leave
could-
that to the player.
you could do
it's
something-
designed for that.
could
They
do something
literally
like
designed it.
Those like invisible bridges, those could be like
Yeah.
you could have like a body hanging off of it, or you could have
Yeah,
like,
you could-
something there that tells you that there's maybe
You
something
could,
there.
or you could have players go through and die, and you would see their blood splats. Like the players that, like
But that,
the
the
players
difference
are
there is
creating the
is
environmental
first players are
storytelling.
getting punished because those tools don't exist.
Sure, but whatever. That's fine. That's part of it.
No.
It's part of the fun.
Okay. Well,
You know, in Dark Souls, if you are like ahead of the curve, you feel like you're in uncharted territory. You are like paving the way for others.
it's not just uncharted territory though. It is territory designed to punish you for being in
Yeah.
there. Like I don't know. Not a fan.
Yeah. No. Go.
I was just going to go back to the PoE tools. There is a somewhat interesting thing where you can use Path of Building, but you cannot use Awaken PoE Trade on console.
Oh.
So a lot of the tools that people think are necessary
Mhm.
for Path of Exile, you just cannot even use them at all
I mean, I
on
worked
console.
on Path of Exile for many years, as you know.
Mm.
I never used any of those things.
Yep.
And I didn't. Full disclosure, I didn't beat Cirrus, but I beat like the Henchman. Like
Yep.
I did it without any of those tools,
Hmm.
and I did it. Admittedly, I had insider knowledge because I worked on the game.
Oh yeah.
But-
you knew all the
but-
hidden.
I knew where all the hidden bridges were.
Yeah.
but like I would didn't ever plan a build, so I would build my character based on what I found. I didn't trade. I didn't do any like I when I would get to like high tier maps, I never beat the map system,
Hmm.
but I would consider that successful.
Yeah.
I think that's the key. Like
Yeah.
if you can build that game knowledge through the tools the developer gives you without external influence, then
Hmm.
that's enough.
Mm.
If it requires external influence, then I think that is a failure on the developer's part, unless it is specifically designed to operate like that. Like for example, an ARG.
Yeah.
An ARG requires a communal effort.
Yeah.
It is obtuse by design, and you could make that
I mean,
argument. You could make that argument for Elden Ring right up until the point that you notice that there's an offline mode.
Elden Ring does have a ARG vibe, actually.
I do think that is the intent, whether they added the offline mode or...
I think again this is where I'm going to draw a line, because an ARG doesn't punish you for not having the information, whereas the Souls games do. Like if you are playing an ARG, you don't progress, but you don't regress. Whereas for a game like Dark Souls or Elden Ring, you don't have the information. You attempt to progress, you die, and you lose progress. You lose your souls.
Yeah.
I think that sucks.
Mm-hmm.
I'm okay with it.
I get it. I get why. Look, I get why people like it.
I also like
because they.
stop playing, but
Yes.
I'm also like fine with that.
am always amused by the fact that neither of you, both of you love these games, and neither of you have beaten them.
Yep.
I really like
And
God of War as well. I
I've
didn't
beaten
finish that.
them. I beat God of War. I really like God of War. God of War tells you lots of stuff that's
Yeah.
very important. It also doesn't tell you everything, which is great.
Hmm.
I even did the extra Valkyrie stuff, which is really hard.
Did anyone play the new one?
Ragnarok,
Yeah.
the new one from 4 years ago.
Was it 4 years ago?
I think it was
Yeah.
about
Oh my
4 years
god.
ago.
Oh my god. Holy hell.
Something like that. It might not be 4. It's a while
I swear
ago.
that was like last year it came out. Oh my god.
I'm waiting for it to go on sale on Steam.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
I started playing it, but there was a lot of like cutscenes very early on, and in the first sort of hour-ish of gameplay, I felt like about 45 minutes of that was cutscenes, and I went, I'm not doing that. I'm sure it gets better because they're just trying to set up the game and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Well, you, my friend, are going to struggle with the Yakuza series.
I might not play that.
What? What? That's fine.
I'm good with like short clips and stuff, but when most of what I'm playing is
Cutscene.
cutscene,
yeah.
What was
it's not my thing.
Well, you've said it's so funny because you've said this is like your like character thing. Because you've said before, right?
That I don't like when games do stories at me.
and then you're just like, there's too many cutscenes in the first hour, so I was out of here.
And then like I'll play just like roguelikes and die over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
the story is I made it this far and then I found a new enemy and I got to figure out how that one works.
You know what's good with Elder Scrolls is very few cutscenes.
Elder Scrolls Online specifically.
Oh no, not Elder Scrolls. Oh man, I said Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
Elden Ring.
Oh, well.
I keep doing that every time I talk about
There
them.
definitely
I
are
switch them around.
cutscenes.
Yeah, they're short though. They're good length cutscenes.
Mm.
I decided.
They're also kind of dumb.
But they're just weird, which I like.
There's a scene. Spoilers, because neither of you have made it this far.
But what about when I go and
Huh?
I'm not going back to it.
Go back to it. There's like a whole snowy section, and the whole point of the snowy section is you have to get to basically a giant cauldron on a mountain. And you get there, and by the way, you get to this cauldron, and to actually progress the story, you have to use the site of grace there. I didn't know that. I fell into the cauldron and died.
Why'd you do that?
Because I thought that's what you're meant to do, because there's literally no indication that
Did you
way
see
Except
to
for
any-
someone on the ground saying try jumping.
I think there was.
probably something like that. Anyway, there's a whole scene where you use this site of grace, and like the little lady who's been helping you by, I guess, just giving you stat points when you spend souls. You know who I'm talking about. She basically just looks at the tree. And I think I'm trying to remember exactly what happens. She either stabs herself or she just fades away.
Oh, what?
That's how she dies, and then the tree catches on fire.
Whoa.
And the tree, by the way, is really, really far away.
Oh wow.
So you're at a cauldron, which is nowhere near the tree. And the reason you're at the cauldron is to set the tree on fire. And then the lady dies and the tree catches on fire. And that's how that game works.
Sounds about
What
right.
is the lore? Can anybody tell me the
Oh man, I can't tell you the lore, but there'd be pages and volumes of the lore.
The tree's got like one spot of really, really, really thick skin that leads to the cauldron.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's ignite damage.
I'm done talking about Elden Ring.
Great game.
Okay, if you say so. Fuasan says, question for you. Did Nick create and or write It That Fled? It makes me happy that Path of Exile has quite a few LGBT/queer representations, and it is one of my favorites so far. If it is indeed you, thoughts on its creation? I didn't write all of it. I wrote some of it. I did create the character. And it was always the intention that it refer to itself as it. And basically be an alien, in terms of its sort of theme and perspective. I didn't. The intent was not to have it be LGBT representation so much as just an outsider. But I can definitely see why some people would identify with it that way. So it's kind of neat that people have taken it from that angle. We do have, or I guess Path of Exile does have several queer characters.
Yeah.
I always try to make a point when we were doing a big pool of characters that would have some representation from different segments of society. But that also means, for example, you get a racist character because that is a person in society. It's not a positive representation, but I think it is one that suits the world.
Yeah.
But you always want some positive representation too.
Yeah. I always remember when I first joined, like I thought it was cool that in the Sirens Cave, right? You see visions of the Sirens trying to tempt you. And I was I didn't realize that it changed for
the Ranger.
Yeah.
The Ranger sees a female.
Yeah, and the
male see
Templar.
a female, and the
Yeah.
female see male.
Like I didn't even realize that until someone pointed it out, because like I only ever played well, at the time I was only playing Templar. So I just assumed, oh, they're just whatever, you know.
Yep.
And then I didn't realize until I played another character. I was like, wait a minute. And then somebody said about this at work. I was like, oh, whoa, I had no idea. That's like what a like really specific kind of thing to just
nice
like hint, just a
subtle
hint
thing.
in there. Yeah. That it's like nowhere. Like I don't know if it's like anywhere else and the Rangers like backstory or anything, but it's just like it's just there.
Yep. There are much less subtle versions. Where, for example, I think I wrote a character, one of the 4 Cyrus henchmen, one of the like map bosses. There's like some lore letters that very heavily hint that he's gay. But I think it's important to have a range of perspectives. Yeah. And to also have those perspectives reflected in the reality of the world. So that character, if I'm recalling correctly, was persecuted for being gay. Because, you know, he's coming from Oriath. Oriath is a very strict fascist society at the point that the character is visiting it. So, yep.
Cool.
We've got a bunch of other questions. They're a bit long. Should we talk about some video games?
Sure,
and
we
get back to
can.
these next week?
Yep.
Okay. Or I guess it won't be next week. It'll be
week after
2
that.
weeks, 5 weeks, 100 weeks. We'll find out.
We're trying to maintain a schedule, but it's so hectic right now.
Why?
Well,
what are you guys doing?
I mean, we're just hanging out, man. That's too many barbecues, I think, or something.
The player's perspective is people don't do anything, right?
Yeah, we're just sitting around the office eating pizza all day.
Yeah, no one's working on Pee-wee 2.
No.
Oh, there is Pee-wee 2. Yeah.
Oh, we forgot.
Yeah.
Oh no, guys, we forgot to make Pee-wee 2. Oh no. Oh no. Oh gosh.
Yes.
So video games.
Yep. I've been we can start with what I've been playing, I suppose.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I mean, usually, yeah, whatever. I've been playing. I've got really into Elder Scrolls Online in the last like couple weeks. I mentioned it a little bit on the last podcast, but like, I kind of just felt like playing a game where you're just a knight and you're just adventuring from town to town, doing quests, you know, getting gear, just that vibe.
That classic MMO vibe.
That classic, yeah. And you know, I've played WoW, and that's all fine. But like, I never like I had played Elder Scrolls Online before, but I never quite got that deep into it.
Yeah,
like I would get like level. I think that my highest character was like level 14 at the time, which is still basically the area that you start in.
Yeah.
And now I've got a character that's like level 30. And it's great. And I don't know what's clicked this time, but I'm realizing things that I never realized before. Where, so you know how I'm saying about, okay, you're going from like town to town and village to village.
The lady looking around in the map, symbols flying over her head.
Yeah, it just like, I feel like this game has just like opened itself up in a like crazy way. Like I was looking at just the maps, right? And the world map, man, this is pretty big and there's lots of places to go. And part of it is probably that they've had so many expansions since. Like,
Yeah.
this is their 10-year
Basically
anniversary.
filling out
Yeah, and there's lots and lots
Tamriel?
of
Tamriel.
yeah. Nern,
Nern.
that's the planet.
Yeah, but you're not going to like Akavara or whatever that the
Not yet. I would love to though. That's such a cool interesting-
dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at that map. I'm like, man, there's so many places to go. This is so crazy. And then I just hit zoom out again and was like, whoa. There's Plains of Oblivion. There's like other crazy places. It's like there's more, even more than I even thought. And it's just like, oh my god, this whole massive universe to explore. And I'm just excited by it.
Cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I just wanted to play just a straight like sword and board knight that just hits stuff with a sword.
Yeah.
Doesn't do anything crazy, like no magic-y stuff. The last few characters I played, like I started off way back with like a summoner guy, and I just felt so bored, like I was going through the same things.
Disconnected from the action, right?
Yeah.
Always a problem with a summoner character.
And then a few years ago, I tried playing another sort of sword and board style character, but I still never really, their skills were just, like I wanted something really down to earth, and their skills were too sort of like holy with all this like magic stuff and whatever. And I just never fully, I just felt like I never really got into it. But what I've done differently this time is I'm playing, all those other times I played first person because it's an Elder Scrolls game. That's what you do.
Yeah.
You know, this time I'm playing third person with a controller, and I'm like actually using the dodge mechanics because it's just easier with a controller than it was with the thing. And it's got, you know, it has a Dark Souls feel, not Dark Souls difficulty at all. No, not even close.
in that you're relying on other players to progress.
yeah, not even close. But it has way more active combat than I actually realized, because I think in first person there's a lot of monster skill abilities that you don't realize because you're locked in that first person. You're just looking at the monster. You don't realize that there's like some indicator on the floor to say that this crazy skill is going to happen and you should dodge out of the way.
Yeah.
But in like third person, it's like I see all this stuff all the time, like area of effects going to happen on the ground, so you can like dodge and roll out of the way, and it's way more active, and just like it just feels way more fun than when I last played. I was just standing in front of a monster, hitting it, boom, 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 boom. You know, it would do that, whatever. It just felt very, I wasn't playing it as
intended,
as actiony as it should be. And I remember like way back when they first showed it. They showed it in third person, and people raged about it. They were like, "We don't like this is an Elder Scrolls," and I was on that same side. I was like, "This is an Elder Scrolls. I'll always play this first person."
Elder Scrolls has supported third person since Morrowind.
Yeah, but people always think of it as first person. I've always played it as...
It's definitely more fun to play it as first person. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
but I think that's in large part because the animations have always been so jank.
Yeah, I've always... Yeah, no. It's like Skyrim and stuff. I've seen videos of people playing third person. I'm like, this doesn't look right.
And
Are
also
you playing with other people?
In the sense there are other people in the world, but like not an actual friend.
You don't have like a group.
Yeah.
No.
And you're not engaging with other people?
No, someone sent me a friend request in a dungeon once, and I just declined it.
So you're actively avoiding.
I'm actively avoiding people. Like I'm one of those players that, and I'm an important part of this whole thing is that I'm one of those players where the other characters are background and give life to the world, you know, and that is also what I am doing.
Yes.
Like I've seen people talk about, like, you know, like a lot of MMO players are solo players, right? Yeah. And basically they just give life to the world.
Yeah.
And you know, you see it in like big cities around all the sort of main trade areas and stuff. People are going back and forth between like crafting benches and doing quests and stuff, and it's really alive and that, you know. So if I played it solo, it feels dead, you know. The players just create the life, you know, and you can be going down a road and there's, you know, a player zooms by in some glowy horse or whatever, or you can be in dungeons. Like a lot of the dungeons are like public,
Yeah.
Like you can just encounter other players in there.
Oh,
Like
so you don't have to party up. You can just
you
go
can,
into a dungeon and there's other people
and you
also in
can,
there.
and they can be doing the same quest, and you'll just complete the same quest together without having to.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you can tell they're doing the same quest because like they walk up to the same NPC, or they interact with something that's like not there, and then you trigger something, and then something appears there, and then you interact with that. Like it's really well done. Like I prefer that than the instant stuff.
Have you played Guild Wars 2?
Yeah, I have.
That was very similar in that and maybe even more so in that it would, if you were near other players doing a quest, I think it just gave you the quest and would be like, yeah, you're doing this quest too. And then like their progress would count towards your progress because you're all basically doing the same quest.
Ah, that's cool. I know that they had, it's been a long, I played Guild Wars a long time ago, but yeah, I do remember they had like the open public quests or something like that you just automatically be part of if you're in the vicinity.
Yeah.
And this game has, I guess, something similar where there's these like Oblivion anchors coming down from the sky.
Okay.
And they're basically just public events that you go and you fight off a load of demons coming through.
Right.
And then
Sounds like
at the
Rift
end,
had rifts.
yeah, it's exactly like that. And then at the end, you get like some completion thing, and you get a chest drops, and everyone gets their own individual loot, and it's really cool. And then the quests themselves, like I can't remember if I'd really noticed this the last time I played, but I guess because WoW was so like strong in my mind that MMOs are just like, the quests are just like kill 5 bandits, kill 10 like wolves, collect how many bear pelts, and you're doing that. This is like, I have encountered maybe 2 or 3 quests that are actually like go and kill this specific number of things, or kill this, or kill these things to drop these things. Yeah, most of their quests really, and this is probably going to sound boring, boil down to go and talk to someone, go and find something. Grab this, take this to somebody else. Yeah. Right. And you boil it down to that, and you're like, that doesn't sound all that interesting. But the story writing and the twists and turns in the quest, that's what keeps you going. Yeah. And there's like every quest I've found to be not as straightforward as you first think. Sure. There seems like there's always a twist somewhere there. Yeah.
That's cool. What is the incentive to like fight things along the way?
Well, that you just fight stuff. So you can say you got a quest that's like, you need to enter a mine that's been taken over by a cult, right? It's never, okay, I need you to go into this mine and kill 10 cultists, and then go back to the quest giver, and then, okay, now go back to that mine and kill 10 different type of cultists, and then kill the boss. Like, that's a very like World of Warcraft, like go to the same location and kill just a different type of mob from that. This is like, if you have something that's like, okay, go into this mine that's been taken over by cultists, it's like, stop the ritual that's happening at the back, or they've stolen a relic or something like that, or they've just taken it over and we need to figure out why.
Clear them out. Or,
not even clear them out. It's just like, well, I mean, they say clear them out, but it's not like kill every single person to clear them out.
Like get the boss.
But it's like kill this guy or something like that, or it's straight up just like figure out why, because we don't know. Right. And that leads to like this whole, that usually leads to some twist and turns discovery thing, and could end up being like, oh no, someone in town has orchestrated this whole thing. And it's just every quest is bigger and more interesting than I would expect. Yeah.
Have you ever encountered anything with like a branching outcome?
I don't think so. I don't think there are.
Okay.
There are. There are. There's a few quests that at the end you choose an option which will affect how it ends, but I don't know if that's usually at the end. Right. And it just affects like characters that you've known and their sort of how they end up. Like there was the end of like this major quest in one of the towns where you could either leave someone for dead or save them, and doing both would have what sounds like it would have repercussions in the town. But it's the end of the quest, and it's like, I don't know how, like, the world seems kind of static anyway, so I don't know if it's actually going to have any, or if it's going to come up later on or anything like that. But it does, those characters that you save do show up in the main city, because they're planning to like flee the island basically.
Right.
So there is like some story change there, and you do just kind of feel better yourself for like saving them
for killing them.
Yeah, for leaving them for dead. Yeah.
One of the things that has always been a kind of a bugaboo of mine
Mm.
with MMOs is when you're playing, all of the quests are about how you're saving this town,
Yeah.
you're saving this world.
You're the chosen.
You're the hero, yeah. And then you look around and there's
Everyone's the chosen.
400 other people with
Yeah.
decked out gear and like glowing mounts, and they all have the same storyline. And I've always been a little bit bothered by that because like true immersion would be like you are one of the inhabitants of this world. And
Isn't that kind of how WoW started? Because you're just like a grunt or whatever. It's like go collect some apples, and then you just keep getting
that is how
more
it started.
and more.
In about 10 or 20 levels, you become the hero. Though, like
There are straight up storylines where you become like the faction leader for your class, but then that's everyone.
Right.
Yeah, there's definitely times where you are interacting with like a faction leader in a way that makes you very special, and like there's no one else in that little cutscene or that sequence, but then everyone experiences that, and everyone has the same reward from that.
Yeah.
Everyone has killed Deathwing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, there's that thing where maybe I'm wrong about this, but it was like Ashbringer is the super special sword in World of Warcraft, and it was like this one of a kind, and then at some expansion, by the end of some expansion, there's like 50 of them. Everybody's got them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was meaning like specifically in like Classic though, where you
do start low.
But I swear for ages, no one's like, you're the hero.
No, it was for a long time. You were just a dude.
Yeah.
But as stories went along, and you had to like, the stakes had to get raised every expansion.
Yeah.
You are then like this chosen champion type thing.
Yeah. And I guess I don't know if that's an inevitability. It's a lot of I don't think it is an inevitability. I was thinking about this.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I think a lot of TV shows and video games come down to, especially when they drag on for many expansions or series, it becomes we have to raise the stakes. We've just had a world-ending like risk that was averted. The next thing needs to be even greater.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think that is the natural instinct for a creator, and I think that is worse than the emotional stakes which can be raised. So, and I was reading about, I saw some complaints on Reddit about people. I guess Naruto is still a thing, and now Naruto is fighting aliens or something. I don't know, but like the stakes have been raised to the point where it's otherworldly threats.
Yep.
But it's more interesting narratively if the stakes are specific to the main character.
Like, so, have you ever watched One Piece?
No.
Have you ever watched One Piece?
The 4 billion episodes of it?
There's only there's only 1,500.
Live action.
Oh, right. So One Piece, like I'm only halfway through the series, so I'm only on like episode 500 and something.
Oh my God.
But that maintains that somehow does a thing where the stakes are always raised, but they're never, like, at least so far, they've never hit
become absurd.
that ridiculous level.
Yeah.
It's always like they're always very grounded. Always very grounded. Even like these insane, powerful characters, they're always still very grounded and like still limited in their power compared to something like Dragon Ball Z, right? Where people are just exploding planets. It's and they've maintained that for 1,000-something episodes.
See, I think that's smarter.
Yeah.
And I think also more difficult, but more satisfying.
I think it's a key. Like JoJo is similar, although that got freaking nuts, but that might not be the best example. But it still is like, it's the powers that people have that is where that sort of it's the powers that they use that are all different, that you end up with this increasing the stakes. It's not like in Dragon Ball Z. It's like you shoot they just shoot a Kamehameha. The next season they shoot a bigger Kamehameha, and then the next season it's a bigger and a bigger. In One Piece, it's like he's got a specific set of powers, and he's up against an enemy with another specific set of powers.
Yeah.
Then in the next arc, he's still got that same set of powers. He's just up against another character with a completely different set of powers, and it's how those weird powers interact.
Okay.
And like JoJo is like that as well. It's like
But-
there's supposed to be no one best
Sure.
power. It's just they all interact differently, and they would have strengths and weaknesses against each other.
But you can take out powers entirely, right? So the
Sure.
example I would say, Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Have you seen Breaking Bad?
Mm-hmm.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but he doesn't get any new powers.
No.
He doesn't get stronger.
No.
In fact, the whole thing is he's generally getting weaker physically.
But he is getting more power.
He's getting more social power.
Yes.
But he's doing that, and
He's also getting more inner confidence.
yes, he's losing his morality.
Yeah.
And that's where the stakes are actually raised. The
Mm.
stakes are it's never the risk to him.
Mm.
It's the risk to everyone around him
Yeah.
through his actions, and that's where the drama comes from. And
Yeah.
and like that's an interesting and more satisfying
Yeah.
angle, I think. So,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, what does an MMO look like?
Well-
Where it's more about the stakes being raised to the things or people you care about specifically, not the whole world.
Well, I think a smart thing they've done with Elder Scrolls Online, in comparison to like World of Warcraft, right? Where World of Warcraft, all the expansions are following the same storyline. They clearly go from this expansion, the storyline follows on to
There's
the
a
next
linear.
one. There's a linear progression.
Yeah.
In Elden Rings,
Elder Scrolls.
Elder Scrolls,
Oh boy.
in Elder
Elder Ring.
in
Scrolls.
Elder
Scrolls
Rings
of
6
Yakuza.
Online. Yeah, pirate version or whatever. Pirate Hawaii.
Yeah. An Argonian Yakuza
Yeah.
in Black Marsh.
Yeah. In Elder Scrolls Online, so far I have not seen I have not seen storylines that basically build on the last
Okay.
like
Sure.
threats that build on the last thing. So it's
Yeah.
not just this like world-ending boss, another world-ending boss,
Yeah.
universe-ending boss, all this sort of stuff. It's like it's more region
Mm.
focused. So I started off in the Morrowind region, and there's a story that's very specific to Morrowind that
Mm.
if you failed, the cataclysm that happens will really just affect part of Morrowind,
Right.
not even probably all of it. Just like
Right.
the main sort of city and their sort of living god guy. That's what's at stake, and it's
Lord
and-
Vivek.
yeah, and it like kind of if that failed, it would basically throw their whole like thing into chaos.
Yep.
You know, it's not some world ending. It's not some world ending thing. And now that I've finished that storyline, I've ended up, which is kind of cool, just sort of going with the flow
Yeah.
of like what storyline feels like the next thing progression. Because I had there's a couple that I could pursue. I've ended up in the Khajiit area,
Mhm.
one of the Khajiit areas, dealing with a thing that will I actually don't know the ramifications of it, but it's not going to be it's not going to be a world-ending thing.
Sure.
It's basically just going to affect that
Well, that's cool.
that
I
area,
like that.
you know. And I think that's the way it is throughout, you
Yeah.
know. And there is things of like, oh, if this happens, then who, you know, or it could be, you know, terrible for all of the planet
Sure,
and stuff
sure,
like
sure.
that. But really, when it comes down to it, like that thing in Morrowind, there could definitely be ramifications across all of Tamriel, but really, it's going to super affect Morrowind way more than anything else.
I'm not against world-ending threats, for the record.
Yeah, yeah.
The
I mean,
problem-
I'm
the problem,
assuming
though,
there are.
The issue is always, where do you go from a world-ending
Yeah.
threat when there's more?
Yeah, but I know how you feel, because it would feel really weird to me if I had just defeated some world-ending threat in Morrowind and then just stumbled across another world-ending threat in
Yeah.
another.
Welcome to
zone.
Cyrodiil. We've got a big problem.
Yeah, we got a world-ending threat here now. You know,
Yeah.
but it doesn't feel like that. And the storyline I'm following currently is still very twisty and turny, and I actually don't know what the threat is or what the end goal is for this thing. But it's very still isolated to this one region.
I mean, even thinking back to Morrowind and to some degree Skyrim and,
Yeah.
and Oblivion,
Yeah,
those games, the threat is often based on a cataclysmic threat long ago,
Mm.
and you are preventing something that you know can happen.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
it's about heading off the threat before it
Mm.
becomes a threat.
Yeah.
So in Morrowind, for example, in fact, for a long time in Morrowind, you don't even know what's going on. You know, there's a big cult.
Yeah.
There's the sixth house or whatever has risen.
Yep.
And no one really knows what that means.
Mm.
There was some guy that was buried under a mountain. Nobody really knows what the impact of that is. And then like there's some political intrigue, and then you kind of discover, oh, long ago, if you read all the books, there's like there was a big mech that was made by this crazy inventor, and it had this beating heart.
Yep.
And it was defeated, but
Yeah.
the beating heart went missing. And
Was that their dwarf's living god or whatever they were
Yeah,
trying
a
to
Kula
machine
Khan.
god or something they were trying
Yeah.
to make? Yeah.
and it builds towards the sixth house is trying to recreate the living god.
Yeah.
Under Dagoth Ur.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like that's basically the world-ending threat of that game is the thing that previously happened. They're trying to do it again.
Yep. Yeah.
And they've got the pieces.
What was in Skyrim? Was there a world-ending threat? Or was it just some dragons were gonna
It was
take over?
Alduin.
What was he gonna do? What was his plan? Just to take over?
I feel like he was gonna devour the afterlife.
Okay, I
If
don't
that
remember.
rings any bells?
It was way too
Yeah.
long ago that
Okay,
I played it.
I think, or
I don't
maybe
even
he
know if I
eats the
finished
soul
it.
so they don't reach the afterlife. There's something funky's going on with the dragons.
Okay, yeah.
But the fact that the dragons are returning, that was the thing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
The dragons
Yeah.
used to be a thing, then the dragons went away, and everyone
Mm.
was stoked about it, and now the dragons are back, and no
Yeah.
one's happy.
Yeah.
But that's like that's not a world-ending threat. It's
It's still local.
a
though.
return to a bad state.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Big
Um,
sky predators.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
I think Oblivion was like for a while it was more a constitutional crisis that became a world-ending threat when one of the big demons guys rolls in.
Yeah. But yeah, I think also what plays into it not feeling like it's just one world-ending threat after another is like the I don't know when they did this, but a few expansions ago they basically made the world level up with you, so you can go anywhere.
That kind of sounds awful.
Yeah, I hate that.
I am really enjoying it because it means I can go everywhere. It doesn't mean that there are places that aren't difficult. Like I just ran into an area yesterday where it's like, yeah, these guys are tougher.
Yeah.
But they're not like one shot gonna kill me, you know.
But now okay. World's leveling up with you.
Mm,
You get a sweet piece of gear.
yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, the gear thing, I haven't read up on it, but the gear is like adjusted to your level. There's something.
This sounds bad.
There's something going on there.
This sounds
where-
actively bad.
No. There's something going. Like I don't know exactly how it works, but I'm still finding gear that is better than what I've got.
Sure.
You
No, my question is more: is there a point in even collecting gear? Like the gear to me, when you're describing what you're describing to me is a treadmill. It is, no matter what you do,
Yeah.
you're going to be given gear. You're going to be given stats to get you up to parity with what the developer wants you to be at, no matter where you are.
Yeah.
Which means that ultimately, whatever drops, whatever you're fighting, whatever level you are, whatever stats you're picking, whatever it is, meaningless, because everything's going to be brought up to an appropriate quote unquote level of difficulty
Yeah.
for what you've got. That sounds bad to me. It
Why?
means-
Why is that bad?
well, okay.
I mean, as long as it's all still
the
challenging.
MMO
Though,
journey
like,
is the power fantasy.
yeah.
It is
Yeah,
about
it's-
I go back to my level 1
No,
town.
you are still
where
getting.
I got owned by that level 5 spider on my first or second
Yeah.
quest or whatever, and I can go back and I can hit it once and it's dead.
I am still experiencing that though. Like I went back to Morrowind and there was I like fought one of these monsters there that used to take a while to kill,
Sure.
and I just like wrecked it in like a couple of hits, and I was like, well, that was easy. And that used to be like, oh man, this is like take a while to beat down.
Okay.
So there is some of
There's
that. I
something
don't.
going on.
There is stuff going on where it's like you do out level something, but I don't know. Like I'm not the person. I'm just guessing, man.
Mhm.
I'm just guessing.
Here we go.
I'm not the person.
Back to our stable state.
Like, if you want to find out for real, like, I could go on Reddit and just look at exactly what
That's
is
not what
happening
we
under the
do.
hood here. But I don't know what they're doing. All I know is that it feels great being able to confidently chase quest lines wherever I go.
Sure.
And there are definitely places that I've gone to where it's like, this is actually, too dangerous, or it's like made for like
Yeah.
How do they
a
do that
group or
and
something
have the
like that.
scaling? Because like that's the stuff that I want. I want to encounter an area,
Mm.
get absolutely wrecked by something, and be like, "Oh man, I'm gonna come back here later.
Yeah.
Come back stronger, struggle. Come
I
back
suppose-
later."
Yeah,
Destroy it.
there is like, I did like that in WoW, but
Hmm.
I also like doing that.
Just like any
By the
the-
way,
RPG.
for WoW, they don't even have that anymore. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
For WoW, there's like a mode where everything's kind of brought to your level.
Well,
Yuck.
because the problem with that then is that you are forced into a linear story, or at least kind of a linear path.
I see the
of
see the
you do
advantages.
this, you do these areas first, then these ones, and yeah, okay, that you do feel like, oh man, you go back to the old ones and you're like, man, I'm so much stronger than I used to be. But I am still like getting that. Like I remember like the first monster I encountered was like a major fight where it was just one of those flying pterodactyl things. And I come up to them now and it's just like bang, bang, dead. And I think it's probably, I don't know, man. This is under the hood stuff that I don't know about, but I
So-
like being able to just know that I can go anywhere.
I think back to in Morrowind, things had set stats,
Yeah.
and you could go to a very high difficult area from the very start of the game, and you could get wrecked. But if you were really clever about it, you could like find a crazy powerful scroll in that same area, use it, and actually get what you want.
Like this.
But
yeah.
Oblivion,
Yeah.
they had things that scaled to your level, and everyone hated
Yeah,
it.
no, I agree. I
And then
agree with that.
Skyrim tried to kind of walk the line,
Mm.
and I think that what was happening under the hood was things could spawn based on your level,
Mm.
and some of those things would be high level, but not everything would be high level. So as you got powerful, more and more powerful,
Yeah.
you would occasionally encounter things that were more and more powerful, but you would also encounter low level things, and there was probably, I think, a cutoff so that very, very low level things stopped appearing.
Mm.
So you still had some of that power fantasy, but you also were
Mm.
kind of always facing new challenges. The
Yeah.
problem is, at that point, the kind of thing you only care about is like the specific skills your character unlocks, and not any of the power it bequeaths you.
Hmm.
Like, it's like, oh, now when I shoot my bow, I can shoot like 2 shots at once. Or
Yeah.
something that
Yeah.
that fundamentally changes the gameplay. What doesn't matter
Yeah.
is now my bow does
So-
5 more damage.
Okay, so I do remember here reading, and again, just guessing. I don't know if this
Yeah,
is exactly
yeah,
true. That at around level 50, the world stops. Like you basically, the world stops leveling up with you.
Yeah.
And then from there on, it's more, I think, traditional, where there are
Sure.
areas that are way more dangerous than others. I don't know exactly, but I
But you
did
know what-
I did read that there was like
So-
you are pushed up to a you are brought. Basically, they were saying that everyone is level 50 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, I get it. I played a lot of Diablo Immortal. They
Yeah.
raise things to you. Once you hit your level cap or whatever,
yeah.
and you start raising difficulties, everything
Yeah.
is brought up to that difficulty.
Yeah,
Everything
yeah,
everything basically has the same stats as you, and
Mm.
it is a treadmill because you get
Mhm.
you start off in your difficulty, and everything's a lot stronger than you. You get
Mm.
enough gear. The challenge is adequate. You get more gear. Now you're better than them, and then you get to the next difficulty, and everything's stronger than you again.
Mm.
But it's the same
see.
areas.
Oh right. Yeah.
And that's sort of the problem. Is
Yeah.
it
I-
no longer feels like there's progress. It feels like a loop.
Yeah, I don't know. About that's the key, right? Is that you want to go back to your original areas you've done before, and see how much stronger you are compared to enemies there.
Not just it's not even that per se, but you want to have some sense that you have progressed.
Yeah.
And you want to have some sense that like the actions you're performing matter,
Mm.
not just for the world but for you.
Yep.
And that like
There definitely
there is
there
in
definitely
theory
is that. Yeah.
there is in theory some end to the treadmill.
Yeah. There definitely is that, because like early on I really did used to struggle And like maybe it is just a gear thing, getting better gear, and suddenly I'm like doing, gradually I'm doing like
Maybe
way
more
better,
skills as well.
and skills and stuff like that. But like there definitely was like, man, taking on like 3 enemies at a time, man, that would be tough. But now I can roll into those same areas and just like gather up everyone and just like wreck them in one go. And maybe part of that
sounds like
is-
you're enjoying the system. At
yeah,
least.
yeah. Maybe part of that is skill and like the skills I've got
My
and
question
the gear.
is going to be though: is your enjoyment going to last up to the level cap? Is it going to
Yeah,
last
yeah.
beyond? The
I don't know
level
what the level cap is.
That's what I was going to ask
cap?
before.
But it doesn't even.
I've seen people like I don't know what the level cap is because I've seen people run by with like 100 and something that looks like their level. That seems
I want to talk a
huge
little
to
bit.
me.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Yakuza.
Yep.
Enough about Elder Scrolls.
All right.
Unless Paul, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Nah,
Yeah, you've been a busy boy. You haven't been
Sometimes.
playing games.
not much.
Actually, there's another game I've been playing. I've been playing. First of all, I finished I think last time we talked, I had been close to the end of Yakuza 0.
Yes.
I beat it, and then I played all of Yakuza Kiwami 1, which is the remake of Yakuza 1, and now I would say maybe a little over halfway through
Oh, man.
Yakuza Kiwami 2.
Yeah.
I've also tried out bits and pieces of Yakuza 5, which came out before Yakuza Kiwami 2, I think.
Yeah.
And Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Oh my god.
Which
Yep.
is
That's the latest one.
No,
No?
that's the one before the latest one.
Oh,
In
Infinite
the
Wealth
mainline
is the new
series.
one.
Huh?
Infinite Wealth is
Like
the
a
new
Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Yep.
Yeah, this is where they started doing the name pivot.
Yep.
And a few things I wanted to just quickly mention. The graphical fidelity jump between Yakuza 0 that came out in 2015 and Yakuza 2, Yakuza Kiwami 2 specifically, that came out in 2017, is enormous. But on top of that, the gameplay and city exploration difference. So when you're playing like Yakuza 0, things feel static. You're
Yeah.
walking around, there are invisible walls
Oh.
along like corners and buildings and
Yeah.
things like that, so that you can't like get stuck
I see,
or
yeah.
you can't go into a door or whatever, like a doorway or
Mhm.
whatever it is. And then in Yakuza Kiwami 1, they start to smooth that out a little bit. The graphics are a lot better, but the world still feels kind of static. Yakuza Kiwami 2, they introduce full-on physics. You can like knock over things in the street. You can knock
Yep.
over people. You can. There's like in Yakuza Kiwami 1 and in Yakuza 0, there are like buildings with like, I guess, flags or tassels or something
Yep.
hanging down. That if you try to walk into it, it's an invisible wall.
Ah, okay.
In Kiwami 2, you can walk into it and the things
Physics?
fold
Nice.
and you can go inside.
Mhm.
And this blew my mind because I had the same city, and in each game it gets progressively more complex. And so I went from like I had played through 2 games where I was like, I know the layout of the city, I know where I can and can't go, and I accidentally walked into a door, and the character opened up the door and went inside an office, and I was like, what the hell is going on? Where am I? This has changed the ballgame.
Yeah.
That was this difference 2 years makes, and I found that very impressive. The graphics are beautiful, like at least by the 2 year difference, the jump is insane. They've also changed a lot of combat and gameplay systems between those games. One thing I do not like about this series is you go to the same city.
Oh yeah.
And in the 3 games I've played, all 3 have mainly featured a place called Kamurocho,
Oh yeah.
which is not huge. It's
Oh.
big, but like it's not huge.
Yeah.
And there are changes between the games.
Yep.
Some places that you can't go into, in some games you can, in the others, and you can't go into some areas. So like they kind of evolve it, and like as time progresses within the story, that is a factor in the city.
Oh, that's cool.
Buildings change.
Yeah.
Some you see some buildings being built in one game that are completed in another.
Wow, that's
Ah,
cool.
cool.
And like there's in Yakuza 0, it's like the 80s.
Yeah.
And in Yakuza Kiwami 2, it's like 2006. And so there's like significant differences, even in the way you're receiving information. It goes from like you occasionally get a beep on the pager and you have to go find a payphone to you get an email.
Yep.
And all the information's right there.
Man, that's cool.
But like, the ultimate fact is you're exploring the same city,
Mm,
and that kind of sucks
right.
because
Does it suck because you're playing these back to back?
I think that is
Like
a large.
if there was a 2-year gap.
But the problem is these games came out with a 1 year gap, so
Yeah, people would still be playing it after.
yeah,
Like,
and like within the context of that, the amount of content they actually pump out in that short time frame is very impressive. There are tons of cutscenes. There are the scripts are significant. It's all voice acted. There is like a lot of great acting and motion captured acting. The stories are really interesting. There's tons of mini games. There's anywhere between 60 and 100 quests in each of these games, I believe. And usually they're like multifaceted. And there's like just tons of activities to do. But it's always kind of the same city.
Yep.
However, they also have Hawaii.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
in the upcoming games that I haven't played
you must
yet,
be so stoked.
but that have been out for several years. They have a whole new city, so I'm very excited. But I really have just appreciated that technological leap they've taken in those years, and the fact that like I had known the city so well from 2 games.
Yep.
And then that next game, suddenly I could go upstairs and there was like a mahjong parlor on the 4th floor. And on the 3rd floor, there's just like an empty office with a lady typing at the computer, and I could knock her off her chair.
Do you think 0 was the game to start with?
That's a great question. This is the game I started with, and I really enjoyed it. There were issues with that game, but those issues become more prevalent the deeper into the series you go, I think. That said, it also has some of the most fun sort of mini game activities.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty fun setting, and it's the intro for a lot of important characters.
What is the order that you should play this in? Like 0 first, right?
I haven't really played all of the games yet.
Yeah.
I've played 0, 1, and 2.
Yeah.
The order that they came out, like the original games, it was like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
And then I think it was 4, and then 0, and then 5,
but
and then 1, and then 2.
Yeah. It's I mean it's like the Star Wars. It's like the Star Wars series, right? Like the middle section came out. Well, the 0 is the prequel.
Yes.
Right.
They did 1 and 2.
You could start with that, right?
That is what I started with. Yes. And I think it's a really good place to start.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know anything about the series. And a lot of the events of 0 are referenced and a lot of the characters of 0 are referenced in 1 and 2.
Really?
Which is pretty impressive of
That
1 as the
is.
remake of 1.
Yeah. No, it's because it's a remake and not just like a remaster. I think it's pretty different.
Okay.
But I don't know for sure because I haven't played the original.
Yeah.
But like I know for a fact that there are references to things that they changed. For example,
Okay.
there's a thing where like I think in the current game I'm playing, you get a key to go to to find like a secret door in this big Yakuza complex. And if you go to one of the places, it was like the character says, "Oh, I think there used to be a painting here, but it's not here anymore, so there's nothing for me to do."
That's good.
And
So they just randomly changed the
It
painting.
turns out that in the PlayStation, the original PlayStation version, like in 2007 or whatever, that was where the secret door was.
Oh.
And they just changed the location of it.
Yeah.
And then, but they've made a reference.
They
to the
made a
fact
reference.
that-
Yeah.
So people who know the game well,
That's good.
Yeah.
That's
That's
good.
cool.
Yeah, like actually making a reference to it instead of just like not saying anything
yes,
is so much better.
there's there are a lot of love letters to itself, which I think is amusing. Also, those games are really good. Do a good job of walking the line between like serious Yakuza drama, like crime, kind of like underworld, grimy, violent, and then like wacky, insane Japanese out there humor.
Like man babies fighting each other or something
I
weird.
literally,
Like...
yes, I was just gonna say there's a quest I did last week. I'm walking down the street and there's a bunch of burly Yakuza guys. My character walks up and is like, "This road's closed." And he's like, "Well, I'll get out of the way." "Well, you gotta pay your toll, and if you refuse, they're like, "I'm gonna fight you." And you fight them, and the boss is like, "Hey, you gave my boys a good whack, and let me repay you with a visit to my sex club." And your character's like, he's like, "You wouldn't like turn down this really lovely offer, would you?" And your character's like, "I guess not." And then you go in, and there's like a sexy lady, and she's like, here's my baby, and your character's like, what? And he gives your character a passy, like a pacifier, and your character's like, what? And he's like, yeah, you're my baby now. And the character's like, I'm not into this, and backs away and knocks down a wall, and all of the guys you just fought are in diapers and pretending to be babies, and the big tough boss is like, isn't this great? And your character's like, no, I'm not, this is not my kink. And he's like, what? And then you fight them all.
Oh my god.
But that's one quest out of, it's, I think 80 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are similarly out there. And the upcoming games, the games I haven't played yet. Okay, the one that just got announced, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
Yep.
There's a whole go-karting, like it's called Dragon Kart.
Right.
It's Mario Kart,
Yeah.
but it's in Hawaii, and you're a Yakuza.
Yeah.
There's a crazy taxi ripoff, but you're on a bicycle.
Yeah.
And it's called Crazy Bicycle.
This is what I was saying before. Yakuza is just like a container for other games.
Yeah, we've talked about this previously.
Yeah.
They have a strong central gameplay system of their combat or whatever, and then because they know players are going to get bored, they just throw a whole bunch of other stuff in there to keep them sort of occupied and give them stuff to do on the side.
I mean,
and it's really effective.
Yeah, like keeping up that's a hell of a twist that you just described. Like that
The
keeps
baby thing?
Yeah, like that keeps you interested to be like, what other weird, wacky thing am I gonna encounter that is just a complete like massive twist?
Yes,
it's that contrast between like the super serious and like, well, I mean, you just said before, right? The super serious and the like wacky as hell like thing.
I really enjoy that dichotomy. Also, there's a lot of perviness in there.
Right.
This is, I think, more.
It is Japan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think this is a cultural thing where it's like, and especially because I think this is a game. I read an interview with the makers, and they said we make games for middle-aged men. This is a game about being a middle-aged man, and in recent years we know that we've gotten like a younger audience and a more female audience, and that's awesome. But we're still making a game about a middle-aged man. And they reference the fact that in one of the games, there's a reporter talking to the characters, and it gets completely sidetracked. The reporter's trying desperately to keep things on track about whatever this interview she's trying to do, and then it's just men talking about middle-aged men issues.
Bad back.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I actually really like that they're sticking.
Yeah,
because ultimately, it's the identity of the game, and the audience. You're not playing down to your audience by sticking to your identity.
Yeah,
you're letting your audience empathize with someone who they are not.
How long has this series been going?
First one came out in 2005.
Right. So it was aimed for middle-aged men then. Those middle-aged men are not middle-aged anymore. That was like back then.
It's a good question. When that came out, the character would have been in his 30s.
Right. So young-ish.
Yeah. I mean, that means the developers, I think, were probably in their 30s as well.
It's grown with them.
Yeah.
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 So in 20 years, it'll be...
And this is ultimately, I get sad a little bit, because I think about, what if Pokemon had done this?
I wish it had. Oh my god, yes.
Like, I think that Pokemon as a series would be much more... They do remakes.
Yeah.
Right? You can still have your games targeted at children.
Yeah.
But if like, the most recent Pokemon was about,
middle-aged
a
Ash.
35-year-old dude or whatever who's like, he's had his Pokemon for, since he's a kid. His Pokemon's aging out. Like his Pokemon is dying.
Oh no.
Or whatever. Or his Pokemon is too old to fight. He's over the hump. And he's like, I had a really good time with this Pokemon, and the Pokemon is giving me signs that I should go out and restart my Pokemon trainer career. Like that's what he wants is for it to not end with us. I think that would be an interesting game.
Yeah.
That would be a game I would love to play.
I think for a long time, I think it's for a long time because Pokemon came out when we were kids.
Yeah.
And as we got older, got to be teenagers, young adults, whatever, we were like, we still like Pokemon, but I don't like that. It's just always aimed for kids.
It's always,
you know.
and
Like,
it's
you would like to- yeah.
I
for
tried.
kids.
Yeah, I tried playing the one that came out on Switch when it
Yeah.
came out on Switch, and
Yeah.
like it was fun for a bit. But
Mm.
But it's clearly aimed at children
Yeah.
who don't know how to play video games.
yeah,
Yeah.
Like, imagine if the game was about you, the main character, being a dad
Mm.
whose kid wants to be a Pokemon trainer, and it's about you training them to be a Pokemon
Yeah,
trainer.
yeah. It would be cool. Like, yeah, it just would be an more interesting take. And I think, let's say the success of Power World, right?
Yeah.
Has shown that look, people do want a more and
You do not need to know. There are lots of middle-aged men already still playing the Pokemon games for children. You work with a lot of them.
that's true. Yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying that there is a want for something Pokemon that
yes.
is not just for kids. You know,
Yes.
it's like
Yes.
what
when
if
you no, go on.
I was just gonna say, what if Pikachu had a gun? Yeah, he won a game like that.
the bit about the dad trying to teach his son how to train Pokemon just immediately made me imagine like a Last of Us.
Yes. Wouldn't that be cool?
Yeah.
Like a Last
Like
of Us kind of
dark and-
dynamic,
yeah.
or God of War. Like
That would be
those
cool.
are games
Yeah.
that
Hell yeah.
benefit from the characters maturing, right? God of War, the most recent God of Wars. I haven't played the newest one from several years ago, but the older newest one,
Yeah,
God of War,
God of War.
not God of War, but God of War.
Yeah, I know it. You're talking
Yeah.
about God of War.
Yeah.
Yep.
God of War.
God
of War.
God of War.
Yep.
Yes, the Pokemon God of War.
Yeah.
But that is a game that benefits from the character being older,
Yeah.
having a family.
You're right.
And it becomes about
Mm.
growing older.
That's
And-
exactly it. Yeah, that's
and-
100% it.
As a player approaching that, who had played the originals, not a lot of, I didn't finish them, but I played enough of them
Mm.
I knew some of the story and the characters. It was much more interesting and much more engaging.
Yeah.
So seeing Yakuza essentially doing that same thing proves to me that this is a formula that can work for a series.
Yeah.
And that Nintendo, or I guess in this specific case, the Pokemon Company, is dropping the ball so hard and so often.
Mm.
And
I
I
mean,
think there's
it's-
probably a lot of other series out there.
It's an expanding.
Yeah.
Gamers are an expanding demographic, right? Because like.
I mean, there's new blood coming in all the time.
Well, no, yes, I know. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
expanding as in like the age cap that
Oh, yes.
is just gonna keep going because as we get older,
Some
we'll be
people-
80 and still playing games. I don't
Some
know a
people
single
stop playing
80-year-old
games.
now that is like playing a video game.
Some people stop playing video games as they
Sure,
grow older.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, there are still people who are like, oh, imagine playing games in your 30s.
I know,
My
right?
balls. It's my career.
Yeah.
But like a lot of people don't age out of playing
Yeah.
games in the same way that they don't age out of reading books, right?
Yeah.
They
Mm.
it's a hobby they enjoy,
Yeah.
and if the hobby matures with them, if there is content that is designed to reflect their
Mm.
state, their state in life,
Yeah.
where it's their stage. I think that is the sign of a more mature medium.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Harry Potter series, right? Grew up with the audience.
To a point.
Yeah, sure, to a point. Sort of, just sort of
Kinda-
stops
kinda
at like
stops.
high school or something. I
And
guess.
it wasn't like those weren't coming out one a year.
No,
But
but
that was the
but
idea.
the original book series.
Yeah.
that grew up with like kids started reading it in their, under 10 or whatever, and finished reading it. It was like what are they called? Young adult fiction by the
Yeah.
end. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that again, I think it is a formula that works,
Mm.
but it's not one that we see a lot of. and
No.
it's not applied in
I
to some of the series that I think would actually best suit it.
I think Pokemon is just the Pokemon Company is just like too precious like Disney over certain things.
I
Like
think it is.
they don't want to
I think
risk
it is
the brand, you know.
I think
And I
it's.
suppose that there is a big risk there. Sorry. Go.
Oh, I was just gonna say. I think it is that they had lightning in a bottle with the first Pokemon games,
Mm.
Mm.
and they're like, well, we'll just keep doing that.
Yeah, you just keep doing it. And there's always a new audience for it.
Yep.
There's always that same age bracket. That's not going anywhere. But it's just you're missing out on those kids then that grow out of that age bracket
Yeah.
and want something more.
And now it's an understood formula, and so it doesn't have quite that same
Mm.
like mass appeal, like that shocking cultural phenomenon that the first Pokemon games
Yeah.
had. You know,
I thought
Anyway.
there was a Pokemon game, maybe 10 or so years ago on the DS, that the Team Rocket team, whatever they were like they were like animal rights activists.
I think that is the case, and they still painted them as villains.
Yeah, but they were interesting. Yes, but it was an interesting thing because like they were animal rights activists using Pokemon to fight for better Pokemon treatment, but they're doing the thing.
I think it
It's-
turned out, by the way, that they weren't actually animal rights
So it's just
activists.
a
That
front.
was a front.
Like that's
Yeah.
an interesting topic to me.
Yeah,
But then all
totally.
the others, like the one, what was the last one I played? The Team Rocket was just like fans or something of some other like rival Pokemon
know,
guy, or they
Well,
just
I haven't played. I played Legends,
yeah.
and I hadn't played.
What was
for
the
a while.
one? The one I played. I played the full open world one, but I never got very
Sword
far
and
into it
Shield,
because
I
it was
think?
just too like
Sword and
Arga
Shield
or
was
something.
the-
What's it called? Like Argus or something. Pokemon Argus.
Arceus?
Yeah.
That was Legends. Yeah, Pokemon Legends. Arceus.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
Arceus or whatever.
But I didn't get far into it because it was just so. It was beyond holding your hand.
Yeah.
It was just like wrap you up in
Yes.
in cotton wool and like
Yes.
roll you to the thing. Like it was so
Overly tutorialized.
yeah. It was just like every little thing you do. Okay, now go to talk to this person for 10 minutes about what you just did. Okay, now they tell you to do something else. Okay, now go back and talk for 15 more minutes about. And they'll tell you what a Pokeball is like 5 times and what a Pokemon is over and over. And you're like, holy hell! I know this. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust your players.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down. to.
Yeah.
All right. Paul, you got any last words? Because we're killing you. after this.
Orange, tangerine. They're both fruits, but also
Those are good words.
Yeah, those are good.
Mandarin.
Sure, we can check Mandarin in there.
What? Can you say that again?
Mandarin.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay. And with that, you can email us frontseatquestions@gmail.com. You can leave comments. I want you to email Blake just Mandarin.
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 If you don't know what Blake is doing, he's layering on the Kiwi accent. You might not be able to tell because that's how also he normally
Yeah.
talks.
Yeah.
But we'll be back probably without Paul in a couple weeks because Paul is going to be a very busy boy working on secret things.
We will. We'll find some replacements. I think.
Yeah.
And try to keep
But
the
you will-
2-week schedule.
Hey, I want to get this on tape. You're not going to pull a Severn, right?
No,
Okay.
no,
You
I
will-
just have
you
a
will come back.
busy few weeks, and
Okay.
it's
And
a few
then-
weeks.
Yeah, good. All right. We'll see you when we see you.
Yep.
Send email in question. Bye. Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii.
What? What are they doing?
Having absolute fun.
Yeah, it's honestly, it looks like it's going to be such a blast. It comes out in February.
So here's a question for you, Nick.
Yeah.
You know how you get really annoyed with naming things, right? You know, God of War.
Uh-huh.
You know, for example.
Oh, yes.
This is like now the complete opposite of that, where the names are so unique, but also you can't tell what Yakuza you're talking about, right?
Oh, correct. Yes. I did not realize, for example, that Yakuza Kiwami was a remake of Yakuza 1. And 2. I mean, I understood. I think this is before I started playing it. And I think once I started playing it, I would have understood pretty quickly.
Right.
But, like, yeah, their name conventions are all over the place. And then they've got a bunch of spin-offs that
Yeah.
are not named the same. Like, they've got Judgment something or other.
Oh wow, Yakuza Judgment.
And then they've got prequels that are like set 200 years before.
Really?
They're like they're in the Edo period kind
Whoa.
of thing.
Hmm.
Like the series is
Holy hell.
something like 20 games in the Yakuza series that
insane.
aren't like not including them. Like, they've got the mainline ones, and then they've got like a bunch of spin-offs that are like you play as a detective, where you
Yeah.
or it's in the past, or you're I guess a Yakuza pirate in Hawaii.
Is it modern
Why are
day?
you laughing? That's the
Is it modern day?
yeah.